Hey everybody, so what I wanted to do here is just introduce the Poland Study Abroad program. So this is part of a new initiative we have in political science where some of the faculty are trying to get our students to go abroad, spend about 3 to 5 weeks in various countries where we will be teaching them about those countries. And so the Poland Study Abroad, which is being offered for the first time in summer 2016, is based on a course called Transitioning States and Nations. And it's most likely going to be Poly 372. I just want to highlight some of the major pieces here. So again, this is going to be a 4-week study abroad program. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at a transitioning society from a historical and cultural perspective and look at how Polish values and attitudes have been shaped by various political, geographical, and cultural components. Poland is a great place to look at this because it's one of the most homogenous states in the world. 95% of the residents are ethnic Poles, but it's got a very rich and recent history of heterogeneity and multiculturalism. It also has had major challenges to its own nation, from imperial assaults from the outside to ideological ones from within. So what this class is going to be based on is largely experiential learning. And so I'm going to go through the syllabus and highlight what we're going to do as we go through it. And we'll spend time in 3 different towns in Poland. So when you arrive, you're going to arrive in Krakow. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about what experiential learning is and how we can integrate experiences into our regular course of study. The second day, we'll look at the role of distant history. What was the European Polish experience of nation building, and how did the context of empire and multiculturalism impact this process? The following 2 days are going to get dismal. We'll talk about repression and the nation. How do repressive experiences become catalysts for nation building? And so here you've got Kazimierz, which was this Jewish part of Krakow. And then here you've got, of course, Auschwitz. Day 5 is actually a traveling day. And by the way, both of those places are places that we will be visiting. All the pictures are places, more or less, that we're going to be visiting. So these are site visits to the old Jewish part of Krakow and then to the part where they tried to eliminate the Jews of Poland. That would be the Germans and not the Poles. Day 5 we'll be talking about communism in the nation and how did the communist experience affect the evolving Polish nation. And this is a travel day where we'll be traveling from down here in Krakow all the way up to here in Gdańsk. So going down from this mountainous region all the way up to the Baltic coast. And it'll be probably about a 5-6 hour train ride, if I remember right. Days 6 and 7, we'll talk about dissident movements and social movements in the national narrative. How do the mechanisms of uprising affect the national narrative? From the dissident era to the mass movement solidarity one. We'll talk about solidarity in a moment. In what ways does memorial building change this national narrative retrospectively? And this is a picture of Gdańsk, and we'll have a tour of Gdańsk, Old Town Gdańsk, and then we'll go to the European Solidarity Center, which focuses on this solidarity social movement, which was the movement that brought down communism across Europe. And then on day 8, we'll talk about national and personal identity and the solidarity experience. So having just been to this museum, learning lots and lots about solidarity, we'll ask to what extent are self-interest and the interests of the nation represented in foundational social movements like solidarity. So this will be a travel day to Warsaw. On day 9, we'll look at religion and the nation state, the role of the Catholic Church in bringing about transition in Poland, political transition. How can cultural elements like religion constrain or empower political oppositionists? And we'll have a site visit to churches of the Old Town. On day 10, we'll look at cultural influences on the selection of political institutions and parties. How might the various aspects of nation that we've discussed to date affect the creation of political parties and institutions in the transitioning post-communist state as Poland goes through this period of democratization? And we'll go to the Jewish museum there. So you can hear my dogs shaking and doing funny things in the background and chewing on bones. They won't be coming to Poland with us. Day 11, we will be looking at economics and nationalism. What is the role of economic upturns and downturns in creating nationalism? You had a major downturn in Poland when you had the transition to democracy. And we'll be comparing how other forms of national tragedy have impacted on nationalism. So to what degree do current phenomena function independently from or in conjunction with elements of historical memory? And we'll go to the Warsaw Uprising Museum. Warsaw Uprising, here you see a picture of Poland immediately after the war, where 95% of the country was decimated. Next, we will go and talk about social transition. What does ancient, quote unquote, ancient history have to do with national identity? And how can historical times of pride help people compensate for more recent negative periods? And so here we'll go to this Wilanów Palace, which is in Warsaw, and that will be our site visit for the day. Then we'll get into transitional justice. What is the role of national character in deciding how to deal with past periods of repression and how to deal with those people who were repressors in the past? And we'll have a site visit to the Institute of National Memory, an institute that was created to deal with the communist and also some pre-communist era, World War II era crimes. On day 14, we'll talk about the new national identity and the decline of solidarity, the malleability of identity, how identity changes, how our identity is challenged by internal fragmentation in a period following mass-based regime change. And we will have a visit to Polish Parliament, if our schedule permits, otherwise to the monument to the ghetto uprising in Warsaw. And then finally on day 15, we'll talk about nation and state in the new Europe, how our identity is challenged by external factors in a period of international realignment and unification. So Poland joined the European Union about 10 plus years ago. How has it been affected by that experience? So a couple additional notes about the way this is going to be run. Your course fee, which is going to be around $2,700, includes the 3 credit hour course on your transcript, all accommodations, entry to all excursions with a guide, and intercity transportation for when we go from Krakow to Gdańsk, from Gdańsk to Warsaw. And also pick up and drop off from the airport, so you don't have to worry about that. It doesn't include food. The only things really it doesn't include are food, and food is cheap in Poland. I'm budgeting maybe a few hundred, maybe $400 for food while you're there for the entire month. And you got to eat in America too, I suppose. And what else? The airplane flight to Europe from Poland. The course structure is designed to allow for 3 to 4 day breaks, hopefully, so that you can take advantage of traveling around Poland. And there are lots of things to see. There are other towns that have great, very important and interesting histories. Here's some pictures of the Baltic Sea. We'll actually be along the Baltic Sea. You can spend more time there if you want. Here's a picture of the lake region, the southern mountains down in the south, just south of Krakow. These are the Tatry Mountains, beautiful, beautiful mountains. The Beskidi Mountains, the Bieszczady Mountains, the various castles that you can explore across Poland. So you'll have plenty of time for traveling while we're there. Warsaw is also a night train away from capitals like Prague, Budapest, Vilnius. So these are all places that you might want to see. In addition to this, there are very cheap airplane flights around Europe at this point, especially if you plan early. You can get $50 tickets to Paris or somewhere else. So there are going to be lots of opportunities for learning tons about how the state and society transition in one of these major democratizing states, the state that brought down or initiated the start of the collapse of communism, a state that went from multiculturalism to really homogeneity. And there's going to be lots of time to travel and see other things around Europe. So if you have any questions, please do let me know. You're more than welcome to email me or come to my office hours, and I would love to talk about this with you.